Welcome back. In a string of Twitter comments after returning to Washington from the G20 Summit in Hamburg, Germany, President Donald Trump says he twice strongly pressed Russian President Vladimir Putin about Russia's meddling in last year's U.S. election. He says it's now time to, quote, move forward in working constructively with Moscow. President Trump also noted that Mr. Putin vehemently denied any interference in the election. But White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus told Fox News that Trump, quote, absolutely did not believe Putin's denial of the election meddling.
What the president did is he immediately came into the meeting, talked about Russian meddling in the U.S. election, went after that issue at least 2 separate times. This was not just a 5-minute piece of the conversation. This was an extensive portion of the meeting. And after going at it with President Putin more than once, 2 times, maybe even 3 times, the president at that point, after spending a large part of the meeting on the subject, moved on to other topics.
Well, Trump also said he and Putin discussed forming a joint cybersecurity unit so that election hacking will be guarded and safe. Key Republican lawmakers ridiculed the idea of working with the Russians. Senator Lindsey Graham said it was close to, quote, the dumbest idea I've ever heard. By the end of the day Sunday, Trump had backtracked on his push for the cybersecurity unit, tweeting that he does not think it could happen. Now, the Trump administration is facing months of investigations amid allegations that the president's campaign colluded with Russian officials to help him win the White House, and that the president possibly obstructed justice by firing James Comey, then the director of the FBI, while he was leading the agency's Russia investigation. Numerous congressional probes are underway now, as is a criminal investigation headed by special counsel Robert Mueller, another former FBI chief. Well, the G20 Summit of the world's richest economies wrapped up Saturday against a backdrop of angry protests and a pledge by leaders to fight protectionism in the face of President Trump's America First policy and Brexit. Mr. Trump took center stage at the 2-day gathering. His meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin was the major headline. VOA's Europe correspondent Luis Ramirez has the details.
The last day was long and filled with difficult meetings in a difficult setting.
It's been really incredible the way things have been handled, and nothing's easy, but so professionally and without much interruption, despite quite a few people. And they seem to follow your G20s around. But you have been amazing, and you have done a fantastic job. And thank you very much, Chancellor. Incredible.
Anti-capitalist demonstrators intensified their protests, burning, looting, and trying to block access to the G20 venue. Police estimated 100,000 people were on Hamburg streets Saturday. Authorities were ready with water cannons and thousands of reinforcements. British Prime Minister Theresa May got her time with the U.S. leader after being pushed off the schedule Friday, when Trump's meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin, the main event at this G20, went long. It was a cordial and warm meeting. Putin and other Russian officials affirmed their opinion that Trump believed Putin when the Russian leader said Moscow did not meddle in U.S. elections.
President Trump said that he heard firm assertions from President Putin that it is not true and that Russian authorities have not meddled in these elections, and that he said that he accepts these assertions. That's it.
At the end of the summit, Putin himself took the question.
You have to ask about President Trump's attitude to my answers and not what happened. Nothing was happening. We weren't meddling.
China's Xi Jinping was Trump's last meeting of the day. North Korea was a top issue. G20 leaders, nervous about Trump's America First policy and Brexit, sought to counter what they perceive as a growing wave of isolationism among the main players. In their final communique, they agreed to work against protectionism. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, Hamburg.